What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Bronx Pinstripe Show. Scott, for the first time since 2016, we are recording a podcast and the Yankees are officially out of playoff contention. How do you feel?
Before playoffs even started, which is
well, yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, well, a little point of clarification, just because not many people are used to this. Yeah, it's expected. I'm surprised they lasted as long as they did, to be honest.
That's a good point. It's late
Understanding when I saw the tweet and the stat pulled that since August 28th the Yankees have the best record in baseball. Fuck you for that stat. That's all I have to say. You know what I'm saying? It's like that is such a bullshit stat that means nothing to anybody except just a kick in the nuts. Like, just
but Boone and like Cashman are pounding their chests about that.
That's the only thing that can come from that number with the Yankees missing the playoffs is the lack of change and excuses being pointed to. Well, we finished the season strong. I don't even know how that happened, to be honest. You look at the
I know how it happened. I know
of
how
individual players, and the players' stats are still bad.
Yeah, don't look at the Yankees. Look at who they've been playing. That's how it happened. Their September schedule was soft. We knew it was soft. They just had to not be dog crap in July and August, and then they could have set themselves up for where a strong September against a weak schedule can get you into the playoffs. But instead, they were terrible up until then and completely took themselves out of any playoff contention.
But even when you look at the offensive statistics on the individual player level,
still can't hit.
They still can't hit. Like, even through that stretch, they can't hit. It's crazy. So, yeah, man. I'm glad it's over at this point. It's just like, please have some mercy and just end the season so that we can move forward, hopefully, and do something a little.
You can focus
different.
On the Jets.
I could focus on the Jets. Awesome.
That was the most depressing Patriots Jets game. I watched every single second of it on Sunday.
Yeah, so
terrible, thoroughly unenjoyable to watch.
It was a bad game. It's a bad team.
Both teams blow.
Yeah. Let's not even talk about that. Those are fresh scars. These Yankee scars are starting to.
So here's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna grade the Yankees on the 2023 season. I know what you might be thinking. That can be a short episode. Everyone gets an F. And unlike Logan's classes, we're not going to be grading on a curve. So there are going to be a lot of Fs, but it is still worth talking about in for a lot of players. Before we get to that, though, a couple of just news items and something we were mentioning before we pressed record here. Boone's comments after the game yesterday, him being focused on 2024, not
focused on his job, on having his job for 2024.
Yeah, because I read the Brian Hoke article and it was like something along the lines of Boone has not been given assurances that his job is safe one way or the other, but he's not worried about that. He's focused on 2024. As he was driving to the stadium, all he was worried about is, man, this is bad weather. This could be my last home game as Yankees manager, blah, 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 blah. Maybe he has not gotten 100% assurances like, hey, you're going to be the manager next year. But he's probably been in conversations that lead him to believe he's going to be the manager next year. And that's why he's not thinking about it and not worried about it. I have pretty much lost all hope of him being fired this offseason.
I mean, I just don't take anything into consideration when I'm listening to him talk about it's coach speak. It's just a mouth moving. So yeah, he was probably worried about his job. He just didn't want to tell anybody that he's worried about his job. The fact that he's coming in, he's got next year and then a club option for 25. Is that right? So, in theory, he's got some security based on the contract. He's going to get paid some money to either coach or not coach, manage or not manage. So, as he was mentioning, he can only control. He feels good about the things that he can control. That was some of the comments that he was talking about too. And, when these guys are starting to talk about everything, you're starting to hear them, obviously disappointment how the season went, disappointment how the guys played when they were out there. But then really, this is going to continue. They're going to continue to point to the bad luck, to the injuries, to all those things. That will be a major narrative that will continue into the season. And it frankly is something that they can lean on because it did happen. It's not the full story. It's not complete it's not close to the full story, but it is a crutch for them to lean on, and they will lean on it. And
well, they've
Boone
done it
will,
every year in the
yeah,
past, every
and
year.
yes, they have. And, guys not living up to their potential. And you heard a lot of that when talking to once elimination happens, all the reporters are like, okay, so now we can talk about this. Like, what do you feel? What went wrong? All these things. So it's interesting to hear the comments, but yeah, a lot of, the players bring it, like Rizzo specifically. It's on us. We didn't perform well. A lot of guys in the locker room didn't perform up to their capabilities. Like, you hear a lot of that speak. So nothing really from the players about the fact that they didn't have the right players. From all that they're saying, they believe they had the right players. But what do you expect people to say? That is exactly what you expect them to say. That's why it's tough to listen to and get anything from it.
Judge's comments, which you dropped in our chat, where he was asked, are you going to be included in conversations about, what changes need to happen for 2024? He's like, yeah, I got a lot of ideas. Yeah. If he truly believed, like, no, the team, everyone in the clubhouse is the right person in the clubhouse, we just need to perform better, he would have said something along the lines of, it's on the players, we just need to play better.
Well, I think it's part of that, but I think that also he's definitely,
of course, it's part of that.
Found
of course,
more
all the
of
players,
a voice. He's found more of a voice ever since the captain, he was anointed, which rightfully so. You should. But in those comments, he also talked about, looking at the minor leagues, looking at the system, looking at all of the things. Like he was like, I got some ideas. I got some ideas.
He sees these guys coming up, and he's like, these guys can't hit.
Yeah.
Like, what is this? Like, these are supposed to be our best minor league offensive players. These guys can't hit.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see what his ideas are. I want to hear them. I want to hear what his ideas are.
I'm more interested in that than Brian Cashman's ideas
than
Aaron Boone's ideas.
Because it's different, and it's a guy that is, knows how to perform.
Yeah, and the last bit of news before we get to the grading, apparently we might see Frankie Montas pitch in this last week, which, why not? Sure, let's see it. I hope he pitches like 7 shutout innings, just as a cherry on top of this shit sandwich of a season.
This is basically Frankie Montas saying, I need to pitch. He's lobbying to pitch, basically, so that he can walk into a free agency year with a little bit of
one
tape.
outing is going to make or break him.
I mean, he just wants to prove that he can go out there and throw the ball to major league hitters. I promise you that's what's happening. There's a whole bunch of lobbying on.
It would be more effective if he organizes some sort of like club workout in January of this year where a bunch of GMs show up and he just pitches against high school talent. That'd be more effective than him pitching against the Royals this coming week.
Yeah, well, he'll probably do both. Yeah, you're right. He'll avoid the Blue Jays series and just call me up for the Royals series.
Okay, let's get to the grading. All of these stats, just a caveat, are prior to Monday's game. The Yankees did take 2 out of 3 from the Diamondbacks, by the way. Yay.
That's a club in contention.
Yeah, they had to play those games despite the typhoon or whatever was going through the Northeast this weekend. First up, so here's how we're going to do this. I will read the player and just go through some of the stats and things that we think are relevant, and then we'll each give a grade, and then if we disagree, we will hash it out. I'll go first, then you will go. So I'll start with Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge, so far, well, pretty much on the season, 268 batting average, 404 on base, 173 OPS plus, which is 73% better than league average. 35 home runs, despite missing all of that time, 71 RBIs. He was actually on pace for as good of a season as he was having last year prior to the injury. And I was doing some math. So last season he got, I think it was 690 plate appearances. And let's say that injury was a little less severe than it ended up being, and he missed some time, but not all the time that he missed. So let's say this season he got 90% of the plate appearances as he got last year, and he kept the same pace for home runs and RBIs. He would have finished with 50 home runs and 101 RBIs. 101 RBIs doesn't sound like a lot for 50 home runs, and it's not. But is that Judge's fault, or is that the fact that no one in this lineup can get on base? I think it's the latter. So I think, based on that stuff, he was still having a pretty damn good season. He did go through some stretches, which I think are probably due to the injury and just mechanical things going wrong, some rust, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to give him an A-. it's maybe a little bit harsh of a grade for the season he had, despite being injured. But A- feels right.
I also gave him exactly an A-. I would have given him an A if he didn't finish the season the way he did. I understand that he was not playing at 100%, but he was still out there playing. So got to ding him a little bit for that. He struck out a lot towards the end of the year. But yes, the guy's superhuman. He still had unbelievable numbers when out. So I give him the exact same grade, A-. I think it's an A, probably without the lingering effect of an injury, but A-. So
Now, do you want to do Gleyber Torres?
I'll do Gleyber Torres because you won't do Gleyber Torres justice. Gleyber Torres was the other. I mean, if you're looking at Judge as a standout in the on the team, he was hurt for a good portion of the season. Gleyber Torres was not. Gleyber Torres was probably the most consistent hitter on the Yankees team throughout the entire year. So I'm giving, and I'll give you my grade out first. I'm giving him a B+. I'm giving him a B+. He would have gotten an A if his defense was a little bit better, but he did suffer a defense. The guys have in here the numbers. It was pretty significant when you look at the defensive WAR of minus 3.4 versus 1.5 from last year. That said, the man was hitting all season long when there was nobody hitting. And when I have a team full of guys who can't get on base, who don't see a ton of pitches, who just have zero productivity, and Gleyber was moved around the lineup all over the place, and was definitely the most consistent bat throughout the entire year. I'm giving him a B+. I think he had a really good year, and I think he set himself up hopefully for a very good 2024 or an opportunity to get extended for arbitration year to be bought out and extended. But he's put himself in a very good position.
Yeah, I mean, this might surprise you. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you he deserves a D or anything like that. Like B+ is yeah. Realistic. I think if we look at the offense, just the offense, fifth in the majors for second baseman for WRC plus is very good. But then when you couple that with the defense, he goes down to middle of the pack for just total value of second baseman. I agree with you. For a long stretch, he was the only player in the lineup hitting. Again, we're not grading on a curve, but there is part of that goes into this just a little, subconsciously. So B+ I think is totally
it's not even a curve. I mean, he objectively had a good season. He had a good season. Yeah. And when you look at a guy that does perform consistently throughout in a bad, and he wasn't helped. That good season wasn't helped by the guys around him. That's the other piece of it too. His season could have been much better if he had any help around him at all, and there was some semblance of protection in a lineup that should have that, and he had none of that.
Are you happy with the player Gleyber Torres has turned into?
So that's a loaded question. I think that when we first saw what he could be in that big year that he had,
two big years
that he had, power numbers, we expected a little bit more. I expected a little bit more from him, probably on the power side. I think he's rebounded, and this year put up pretty close numbers. He put up a significantly good offensive number this year. So
he's barely better than he was last year, by the way.
I'm happy
2 points better.
I'm happy with the way that he's rounded out, and I still think there can be better. I think there could be better. I don't discount the fact that you have I do discount the fact his stats when there's no one good around you, legitimately nobody good around you, and you still have a very good offensive season. I mean, there's a lot of things left out on the field for him if guys were performing around him. So I think this year would have been significantly better even if he had a healthy Judge all year long, a healthy Rizzo. And Stanton that was, worth a goddamn around him. I think he would have been much better.
You would think so, yeah. I guess I'm just more disappointed with the fact that Gleyber Torres does not seem to have matured as a player in his going on 6-year career so far. And at this point, I've given up hope that he's ever going to. DJ
I'm most
LeMahieu,
impressed probably by his consistency. That's the biggest thing for me is like his consistency. I thought
he was more
I
consistent
thought came
this
around
year.
this year.
So the
His
interesting
approach,
thing,
his offensive approach, I thought was a lot better. And we had seen him go in spurts. But I thought throughout the year, this year, we saw a lot more of a consistent approach that he carried through the season. And that was encouraging. So I think that next year you're around again, like a lineup that's worth a damn. That consistent approach, if it's continued on, is going to even show more dividends.
well, because this year he had a 116 OPS plus. Last year he had a 114 OPS plus, but the seasons were very different. Like you said, this year he was more consistent. Last year, wild swings up and down. DJ LeMahieu, on the season, 243, 327 OBP, a 97 OPS plus, 15 homers, 44 RBIs. His first half numbers, he had a 643 OPS. His second half numbers, an 827 OPS. Obviously, significantly better in the second half. DJ LeMahieu has been pretty good in the second half. Can that continue into next year? I don't know. He's getting up there in age at this point. He's had injury trouble the last couple of years. I'm disappointed in DJ LeMahieu. I thought he was going to have a good season. I'm going to give him a C.
I also give him a C. You can't look away from what happened in the first half. And I know, again, like some of that was probably a lot of that was around injury and mechanics and him finding, the player that he is offensively with this new foot. I think that's a significant part of why he struggled in the first half. The second half, he did figure it out. It seems like, maybe it was a lingering thing that felt a lot better in the second half, but we definitely saw him closer to the player. But he wasn't the player that we expected either in the second half. He was better, but he was still not that same guy. So I still think that there's a lot of improvement on him. But like you said, man, he's getting up in age. So how much improvement and how much consistent health can you expect from a guy that's mid 30s and
it's going to be relied on likely next year to play third base full time.
Probably, unless they're going out and getting someone. Yeah. He's the likely guy. So I give him a C.
All right. What do you got for Rizzo?
Anthony Rizzo. Rizzo's a tough one, man.
This is impossible.
So I'll just start with the grade. I gave him an incomplete because when he was healthy, before the Fernando Tatis Jr. incident, the man was having a really good season, and he was exactly the guy that we thought he was going to be. The contract looked good. Everything looked good at that point. And then the wheels fell off. Obviously, he was having issues with seeing the ball, with, just the reaction times, all of the things that we now know were around a concussion injury. And he just wasn't the same player. So when you see the struggles that he had all-time struggles, like the worst in your career.
He was the worst offensive player in Major League Baseball.
Qualified baseball player. Yeah. And we were talking about this throughout this whole thing. Like, there's got to be something going on here, whether it's the neck or because I think we were looking at is the neck injury because he's had injuries, or the back, something like that can really hamper you on your swing. Turns out, no, it's more about the brain and being able to process and react to certain things. And it just wasn't where it needed to be. So I do kind of give him a pass for the struggles during that stretch. One, because the Yankees coaching staff / medical staff, somebody should have caught something. I'm sorry. I still believe that somebody should have caught something and they did not. So when I have that guy trotting out there, trying to figure it out, getting frustrated the entire time, I feel for the player and I know that that's not him. And so I'm expecting a big year from him coming back. Hopefully that he expects it, but hopefully the brain is something you can't predict. And I hope that those troubles are in his past. And then we can see that first half Anthony Rizzo, play out for an entire year next year, because that's a big deal. But I gave him an incomplete because that's what I think he deserved.
Before the Tatis play, he was hitting .304 with an .884 OPS and 11 home runs. Assuming that play never happens, he's on pace for a season where he hits close to 30 home runs and hits around 300. Yeah, sign me up for that.
A damn good first base. Yeah.
And then after that, like we said, worst qualified offensive player in Major League Baseball. Incomplete is definitely accurate for him. I'm giving the Yankees coaching and medical staff an F- for how they handled it, because after this guy, I know you did your tests. and he passed. Fine. After he continues to struggle for going on 2 full months, do more tests. I don't know. Something.
When
Anything.
Guys who are talking into a podcast who have full-time jobs and do it on the side are identifying that this man is not right in some capacity, along with every other Yankee fan that's on Twitter or
Any
wherever
night
else,
on
sitting
Twitter,
in the stands.
just look on Twitter and
Everybody
everyone could tell you.
Identifies that this guy is not the same player that he has been. So why is he not that guy? Why can't he, get back at all? Clearly something is going on. Do some tests. You have all of the capabilities in the world to do testing and identify. It's actually your responsibility to the player to make sure that he is healthy and make sure that there's not something going on that could cause further damage. Because, it could have. It absolutely could have.
I'm concerned with that for next year. Like, we've seen concussions derail careers entirely. It's not out of the realm of possibility that this could ruin the rest of his career. Well, I'm not saying it's likely, but it's possible.
Sure. And it's not just, that's not a far-fetched thing. We've seen it happen. I mean, Clint Frazier is a great example.
Justin Morneau, another first baseman who had a concussion and never was the same again. Justin Morneau's career was not over when he had that concussion, and he was never the same after that.
Yeah.
Giancarlo Stanton gets a big fat F for me, a 189 batting average, an 86 OPS plus from a guy who you were relying on to be your primary DH, sometimes outfielder, making whatever he's making. I always forget the numbers because Miami's like paying some of it. Yeah, but like whatever it is, he was way worse than league average offensive production. Among all of designated hitters in baseball with 400 plate appearances, he was the worst offensively. Giancarlo Stanton was the worst designated hitter in baseball this year. F.
He's an F. There's no doubt about it. Like, if I could give you a grade lower than an F, I would give you that, especially on the fact that he can't run. And when I see a man that is hampered physically, that can't move at all, I don't know how he's going to do all the other things he's supposed to do in a lineup. I don't know how they can possibly rely on a guy like that moving forward. There's nothing you can tell me in the offseason that he's going to do that's going to make me believe that he can be better. He'll come into the greatest shape in the world. He looks like he's a physical specimen right now, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I don't know what else to tell you. Like
the only thing that would get me back on his side
bad.
Is if he dropped like 30 pounds of muscle and then all of a sudden came in and he's just like, watch, I can do a split now. No problem. I'm like, oh, cool. He's just been stretching the entire offseason.
Sure. Maybe then, he could get his hips around and actually use his lower body when he's hitting a baseball. He doesn't know how to do that though. That's the problem. All right. We're not going to spend too much time on him. Anthony Volpe is the next guy. 208 batting average, 284 on base percentage, 82 OPS plus. He had power, 21 home runs, and played at 60 runs, RBI in the season. So I think the biggest thing that was encouraging for me with Anthony Volpe was his production when it mattered. Late and close, that's a guy I want up. For whatever reason, he flips a switch. He's got that thing in him where it's like, the focus button gets pushed and he's like hyper focused in high leverage situations, and he just has better at bats. He has better production. But throughout the season, and I've been complimentary of the kid. I'm happy he was out there. I'm still happy that they ran him out there. This being a shit loss season, I'm glad he got a full season under his belt. So that next year he can go into it. We talked about Jason Dominguez, opportunity to find the things that you need to improve upon. Anthony Volpe has a full season of that now. He needs to come back in next year and work, and he needs to have much better plate discipline. I need to see that kid working the count more, going the opposite way. I don't really care as much about the production numbers, because the home runs, like I think the power numbers will be there. I need him on base a lot more. His on base percentage to me is one of the biggest things that is leaving me a lot more to be desired in that player. He needs to get on base.
His batting average and on base need to be like 60 points higher minimum.
Yes.
He needs to be hitting 275 and he needs to have an on base percentage of like 350.
And defensively, everybody's shouting about this kid's arm, how the arm was the problem. I didn't really see that. I think the arm was fine. I think he made some a good amount in the second half. I remember them just eye test coming a lot more frequently, but just mental errors, like little things that he really does need to clean up defensively. But I think he's got the makings of a good player. And I think that, again, the high leverage situations are really encouraging to me, because that means that, pressure doesn't really affect him as much. In fact, he gets up for it. So on the season, I gave Anthony Volpe a C.
Okay, I thought you were going to go higher. I'm giving him a C-, and it's a C- where the teacher's like, you probably deserved a B+, but you tried hard in certain spots, and you had some shining moments. So I'm going to give you a C- just because D's on a report card look really, really terrible. So here's a mercy C- for me.
And also, you look around the league and you look at some of the other rookies. There were some rookies that out there that performed at a high level and much more production too. So, you kind of not grading on a curve necessarily on the team, but when you look around at what the rookie production was and the numbers of guys coming up for the first time, there were guys out there that had some really good years. And so I can't give, when you look at the whole body of work, like Anthony Volpe needs to improve. He's in a great position to do that. Don't get me wrong. And I'm excited for him, but he needs to improve.
So then the last guys on the list, we could probably fire through a little bit quicker. I was just looking at, so IKF is next. Last season, we gave him a B-. That's, I feel like we were generous with IKF last year. This year, he was actually worse offensively, believe it or not. But he was asked to do a much different role. He was not the starting shortstop this year. He was a utility player, and I thought he played a pretty good role as a utility player. So I'm going to give him another B- because the expectations were entirely different this year for IKF.
Funny enough, I was harder. I gave him a C+. The expectations were very different. He's in the role that he should be. He's a utility player. He can play all over. I give him an A for going out into the outfield and learning a new position. He was exposed a few times. There's no doubt about it, but he did an admirable job going out there when nobody else could play. He was basically going out there because of the deficiencies of Brian Cashman, and they literally not. This goes into the later conversation. Not only did they not fill the left field spot, but they had an infielder / catcher / third baseman go out and play the outfield because of that. Because of that, they had to transition a guy from the infield into the outfield because of the deficiencies of what happened in the offseason. So maybe he deserves a B- and doesn't deserve a C in front of his name because he did a lot of the things. The only reason I gave him a C+ is because I do expect more offensively from the player. I do.
No, I don't. Come on. This is what he is.
No. When you look at, I want him on base more. I think he should be.
He's not that play. He's not going to ever be that.
He should. That's not true. He's hit for average much better in the past. I expect more hits from him. I just expect him to be on the base paths more often. He doesn't get on there by walking. He swings the bat. I expect him to find more green, especially in a season where there's no shifts. I expected him to get on base a lot more.
Okay.
Okay.
This is exactly what I expect from IKF and is what he's going to give you next year as well. So get your expectations in line for your guy, IKF.
He needs to be better offensively. He should be. So,
all right, Trevino's next.
I will hold him to a higher standard. Okay.
Good.
Trevino. Who else? Trevino and Higgy. You want to do the catchers together?
Sure.
Okay. I gave them both a C, and it was a complete snooze fest for both of them. There's nothing offensively. Fine. I've talked about it in the past. I really don't give a shit what you do offensively. That really doesn't work out as well when you have an entire team that doesn't do anything offensively. It looks way worse. Or just looks among the same. But defensively, I guess they were okay. I don't think they did a terrific job with the pitching staff. I didn't see anything exemplary from them. Trevino obviously was injured probably for a while because that's apparently what happens on this team. C. It's like,
I think we're learning that Trevino's first half offensive production last season was a fluke. And that's fine because he's still going to be a really good defensive catcher. I think it's interesting what they do with the catching position this offseason. Higgy's entering his last year of arbitration. Trevino, Higgy, like you said, if the rest of the lineup has production, beautiful, but the rest of the lineup didn't. So I'll be interesting to see if they try and add some offense at the catching position.
Well, we'll talk about that or lack of.
Let's do the DFA'd boys. Hicks, Bader, Donaldson. Okay, all of them DFA'd.
Mm-hmm.
Hicks, Hicks had a 45 OPS plus and 76 plate appearances for the Yankees. He was then waived in late May. The Yankees ate $27.6 million, and he proceeded to put up a 136 OPS plus with Baltimore, which is higher than he ever did with the Yankees at any point in his Yankees career. Harrison Bader spent most of the season on the injured list, and barring 2 weeks when he first came back and lit the world on fire, he was terrible, much worse than he was in St. Louis, which was a league average offensive player. And then he ends the season on waivers, picks up by Cincinnati, and ends there on the injured list as well. Josh Donaldson, who Brian Cashman last offseason said he doesn't know why you wouldn't expect a bounce back season from Josh Donaldson, even though there was a million reasons to not expect a bounce back season from Josh Donaldson, did not bounce back this season. He had 15 hits as a Yankee. Somehow 10 of them left the ballpark. 15 hits. That's it.
Launch angle.
15 hits.
Yeah. He's a big launch angle guy.
And
so
he's
whenever he makes contact,
probably the biggest doucher in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, all that was confirmed. Big douchebag. Originally it was like, maybe he's the asshole that we have on our team. Maybe he's our asshole.
No, just an asshole.
No, he's just an asshole. Goes to Milwaukee. What's the story here? He didn't introduce himself to anybody because
wasn't that a joke?
They all should know who he is.
Whatever
I don't know if it was a joke or not. It seems real, feels real, checks out because he's an asshole. So, yeah,
F, and triple the Fs for Brian Cashman for having all of them on the roster.
Hey guys, we don't have this on the thing, but what were Bader's defensive numbers? Because again, he didn't overly impress me defensively either.
Not enough to make up for a 75 OPS plus. That's for damn sure. Oswaldo Cabrera, overall in the season, a 67 OPS plus. Prior to being sent down in late July, he was even worse than that because he has raised his OPS by 100 points since being recalled in early August. I also am giving him an F.
I'm not giving him an F. I'll give him a D. But I'm not going to fail him. I think he was put in a tough position with he wasn't a utility guy. He wasn't a starting guy. I don't even know what the hell he was. He was just a guy that if Boone sneezed and said his name by accident and maybe he would be on there. It was just, I don't even know what his role was on this team. There was no role for him. He would play different places. He played shortstop and
he was the starting left fielder along with Aaron Hicks.
He was supposed to be. So I give him a D. He didn't perform when given any opportunity. I don't know what he is as a player. I know what he is. My version of him still, can he be an IKF? Could he be that? Possibly. I think he could probably give you similar numbers. He's going to strike out more. So exactly. I don't like that.
His ceiling is IKF.
He's got more. He's a different offensive player than IKF is. They project as different players, but I don't know what he is. I don't know how he possibly fits into this team moving forward.
Is he anything more than a once, maybe twice a week player because you need to get some guys
he's not.
Rest days? Okay, that's what he is. Yes, he's a 25th, 26th man.
And let me be very clear on that. If it's between him and a guy like IKF who can do more things, I would rather have the player that can do more things.
Sure. How did Billy McKinney and Willie Calhoun combine for 300 plate appearances?
Brian Cashman, left field.
Okay, so
Aaron Judge out for a time in right field. Harrison Bader out in center field. Yeah. That's why.
F
for those guys? No, I give them a solid C. They came in and did things that they shouldn't have been. They were not in position to do. They came in and actually you put Jake Bauers in this bucket too, because these are guys that you certainly don't want to ever expect to have any production at all or have any kind of relevant at bats or any relevant number of at bats, at the end of the season, but they did. And I think admirably they filled in. They were replacement players. That's exactly what they are. They filled in as replacement level players. So they came in and did what they could do as much as they could. They shouldn't have been put in that position.
You're right.
You're an asshole for giving them an F.
No, come on. So to close the loop on Bader, 8 outs above average with the Yankees this year and 10 fielding run value, which ranks 8th among outfielders with more than 100 innings this season.
All right, fine. He's all right. He just whatever.
But like I said, yeah, good defensive outfielder.
He didn't come across as the elite defensive outfielder that he was made to be.
Well, it's not worth hitting 240 and spending half the time on the
No,
IL.
offensive production bad.
So let's lump these young guys together. Oswald Peraza, Jason Dominguez, Austin Wells, Everson Pereira. Actually, can we do Oswald Peraza separately? And this is
let's just talk about them. We just
giving him giving grades is not fair. Oswald Peraza, he's lost all value and he does not look like a major league hitter. So I don't know what he's not gonna be anything anymore. I don't know what, I mean, clearly he never had that much value because teams were not accepting him as a centerpiece in a package. So teams and scouts clearly knew something that fans were not privy to. And I guess the Yankees knew that as well, which is why they never really truly gave him a shot. He's not a major league hitter.
You know what I would love to hear, actually, and we should for the offseason, let's find someone that either has ties to the minor leagues of another team, or maybe our guys over in Houston can help us out with this a little bit too. I'm curious as to how the league sees the Yankees minor league system and the players coming out of their system. I'm wondering how the league grades these players as if they're on a scale with everybody else, because it does seem like the higher prospects, like Peraza is a great example of this, not valued the way that the Yankees value them. It's they're overvalued within the organization, it seems like. And I'm very curious at how, someone from another team is looking at the prospects and how they value those players against other teams' prospects. But yes, I agree with you. I think that he didn't look like a player that could have any sustained success in the major leagues at all. No. And I would put Pereira in that same bucket right now, although I think the jury's all out for Pereira a little bit more, because Peraza we've seen now for 2 years in buckets of time. Pereira,
he also was never an offensive player in the minors. Peraza,
right?
Whereas Wells
this year he was. He had good AAA numbers this year. Production too.
He rose up through the ranks primarily because of his elite defense and decent offensive production. Whereas Austin Wells and Everson Pereira, they each had very, very strong offensive numbers in the minors. Wells, career 846 OPS minor league hitter. Pereira, 854 OPS career minor league hitter. You can't give up on these guys after 50 at bats for Wells, in which he has 8 hits, and 71 at bats for Pereira, in which he has 10 hits. But I haven't even seen flashes, like glimpses of these guys where I'm like, oh, that's why he's a top prospect.
Yeah. And I go back to Judge in 2016. We didn't see it with him either. So it's not to say that all hope is gone. It's not. This has been a short amount of time with these guys. So, but you can't go into the offseason thinking anything positive. You can't go in and say, oh, well, maybe we got something here. You can't think that. You cannot think that. So they got to start in the minor leagues and get better. They just have to do that, so that they cannot be viable options for the New York Yankees next year. They cannot be. Yeah. Even Aaron Judge after 2016 was not a viable option for the Yankees.
No, he had to win his job in spring training, and he started the season batting 8th.
Correct. He had to go in and do that. So they have to account for not even using these guys.
Maybe Judge's idea is just send them to the hitting coach he went to.
Fine.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, it worked for one player.
Jason Dominguez, like, let's also be real. Like, we're all excited because not just because he was the top international free agent when they signed him, but he hit 4 home runs in his first 5 games. But it was such a small sample size. Exciting, looked the part more than those other guys did. Looked like a major league player, whereas Peraza, Pereira, and Wells have not looked like major league players yet. So just eye test wise, in that week and a half we saw him, looked legit, but it was a week and a half.
It was a very small amount of time, but he did look good, and his approach looks like it translates into this level. It does.
He's the only
just
one to be excited for next year, and we're not even
yeah.
going to see him until
And we
July.
can't even be excited yet because he's injured, and that's just such a gut check, man, on that player, because that's exactly right. They were, he was approaching the offseason with everything in front of him, with the, this, if you're looking at positives for a season like this, like him getting reps, him getting the opportunity to find the things that he needs to work upon. Unfortunately, he's going to be rehabbing for the majority of the time, so he's not going to be able to do a lot of that stuff. But I'm very excited about him. Again, not giving grades to these guys because it's too incomplete, but I believe that player. I think he's going to be a player. I really do.
I believe in Jason Dominguez too. I do not believe so far in any of the other guys.
No. Pereira offensively has the potential, but the plate discipline, again, like some of these, you see that time and time again with these Yankees minor league guys, man. The plate discipline is bad. The plate discipline is the biggest thing I'm looking at, and they get exposed when you have questionable discipline at the plate. You get exposed in the major leagues. It happens time and time again, and that's one of the biggest things they need to improve upon.
All right. I want to tell you guys about Game Time, our preferred ticketing app, because it is the easiest way to buy tickets to whatever you want to go to: sporting events, concerts, comedy shows, theater, and much more. Yankee season, the Yankees home games are done. That doesn't mean you can't still use Game Time. And Game Time is only going to be with us through the baseball season. We thought it was going to be a little bit longer than maybe another week and a half. So this deal is not going to be around much longer. So do not hesitate. I love using the Game Time app because it has so many cool features, like it shows you trending tickets, what sections the best deals are in. It calls out cheap options and flash sales. It gives you those pictures of the seats before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect. The buying process is super fast and easy. Couple taps, you're done. The tickets then go directly to your phone. No digging through your junk emails to find them. You can snag tickets today without stress using Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code BRONX for $20 off your first purchase. That's not going to be around much longer, guys, so do not hesitate. Use code BRONX for $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. And thank you so much to Game Time for sticking with us for the entire season. Let's get to the pitchers. Garrett Cole.
Many guys, just real quick, how many guys have a sub-4 ERA?
I don't know. One?
One starting pitcher has sub-4 ERA.
I mean, do you count King?
No, I don't.
So then one.
One.
And he's going to win a Cy Young in a season that doesn't mean anything. Garrett Cole obviously deserves an A+. He's going to win the Cy Young. He's been every bit of the pitcher that they are paying him to be. 2.75 ERA in 200 innings pitched. And 200 innings pitched in today's game, like call that 240 innings pitched from 20 years ago. Very rarely are guys going 200 innings. And I think on a nightly basis, on an outing by outing basis, sometimes I wish Cole more consistently went deeper into because like he has a handful of 5 1/3 inning outings with 100 pitches, and you're like, that's kind of underwhelming for your number one pitcher. But the thing about Cole is he makes every single start, and that is just exceedingly more rare in today's game.
He makes every start, but he's also consistently going deeper into games, and he improved on things that you look back at 2022 and you see all of the blow up games, the amount of home runs that were given up with runners on in scoring position. He gave up runs in bulk at times, and it really it soured what you think of him. This year, I thought he was a lot more consistent. He definitely went deeper into games more consistently. The fact that he's 200 innings plus, he had a hell of a year. Like it's a goddamn shame that they wasted this year from him because he was dominant. And for a guy of his caliber that has been paid, that has been in the league for as long as he is, when you see the improvements that he made, he made direct improvements on things that were bad and wrong in 2022. And I give him a lot of credit for that. And I was, we shit on him for a lot of those things, and he cleaned them up. He really did. He cleaned them up and was extremely good. So yeah, I don't give A+, so I give him an A.
You excited to talk about the Garrett Cole opt-out next year?
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Can't wait. Schmidt's up next.
He's a C, man. Schmidt's a C, I guess. It's when I look at Clark Schmidt, I now see a 4-5 guy. He's a guy that you throw at the end of a rotation. Hopefully you can get, the one out of 3 good starts from him. And you're able to package that together with the rest of your rotation that hopefully isn't as bad as it was this year. But he was so inconsistent that it's tough for me to even understand what his potential could be, because I don't think it's there. I don't think he doesn't have the consistency to be a good starting pitcher. That's the problem. He doesn't have the consistency. And that was when he was really struggling. The biggest problem for him was throwing strikes, throwing balls over the plate, and not even that, just hitting your spots, whether you're meaning to be 2 inches off the plate on a particular 0-2 pitch and him leaking it over the plate. He just consistently would miss his spot. The glove was moving all over the place. And that had plagued him throughout the year. It got better at times. But it really showed a lot more than I was hoping for. I was really hoping for him to be able to clean it up as the season went on, and we just didn't see that.
Yeah, I mean, he's barely a league average pitcher. He's been a little bit worse this year. So maybe if you say, well, let's give him a pass on the start of the season because it was his first time as a consistent starting pitcher. So maybe next year he can be a league average starting pitcher. You're right. That is a C. It's a C- for me, but he's never going to be anything better than that.
And when you look at May and June, 3.52 ERA in May, 3.0, basically a 3.0 in June. You saw the beginning of that season was just a horrid start, and he did clean it up for 2 solid months. And for 2 solid months, you're like, okay, he did. I was feeling really good about Clark Schmidt for 2 full months. And when you have 2 full months of a starting pitcher that seemingly has figured some stuff out, you're like, okay, maybe this is a guy that has figured out the issues that he's been having, but he fell right back into them. That was the most disappointing thing, is that he fell back into the problems that he had early in the year. Not to the same extent, but they still plagued him. Inconsistency, not being able to throw the ball where he needs it to be. So unless you can improve your accuracy with mechanical changes in the offseason, which is what he needs to do, I don't expect much besides a back of the rotation guy.
Domingo Germán, oh boy. So
he had talk about him.
10 appearances where he allowed 1 run or less, and he had 5 appearances where he allowed 5 runs or more. And he obviously threw that perfect game and checked himself into rehab, or not checked himself. Someone checked him into rehab. I hate Domingo Germán.
Yeah, I don't like him as a player. I don't like him as a person. I don't like him. I don't want to see him. I don't want to see his name. We said this after the domestic violence incident. Didn't want to see him. Still don't want to see him. Don't want to talk about him anymore. That's it. I'm done with him. I'm done with him. F. Yeah. Get the fuck out of my face.
Sevy. The opposite of hate someone. Really like someone.
Really,
but goddamn, man.
Really, really rooting for him. So it's really difficult to find the words to describe what Sevy's season was, besides just disappointment. He wasn't able to perform. He wasn't able to find the right mechanical change to give him, the success that he's had in the past. We saw him, actually throw some innings finally for a while until the very end of the year where he did go back on the IL. But as you call these guys, he's an injury guy. He is an injury guy. He's got a ton of upside because we've seen the upside, and I guess that's why that's still there. But every day that goes by, that upside is further and further and further away. So it's almost like it's non-existent. He's a player that I think every one of us roots for. He is a guy that we wanted so badly. And when you see someone shine as bright as he did, and have such dominant stuff and really just wear those emotions on your sleeve, you root for a guy like that. And unfortunately, he's not able to recapture, what he had earlier in his career. And I don't know if he's ever going to.
Well, he's not going to with the Yankees. And it's just such a shame. Like you said, 2017, 3rd in the Cy Young. 2018, 9th in the Cy Young. They give him the contract, and it's just been a disaster since then.
It's hard to look back at that contract and say that Brian Cashman was wrong in that contract.
I'm not criticizing Brian Cashman for that contract. Obviously, you seemingly locked up a pitcher through what should have been his prime years for very affordable money.
Yeah.
It didn't work out. No. And they were relying on Luis Severino the last couple of years to be the number 2 or 3 this year behind Garrett Cole. And it just never worked out for them. And at the very least, in the past couple seasons, when he's come back from injury, you could hang your hat on when he's on the field and pitching, he's effective. But that was not the case this year. He was absolutely terrible this year when he was pitching. So
yeah, he couldn't find it at all. And look, there's a lot of this on the player for executing things, but at the same time, how can you not look at the coaching staff for being able to take a guy who has this raw talent, who is seemingly healthy, and not be able to get more out of him? You know what I mean? Like, how can you not identify more closely or just be more rigorous in how you're adjusting certain things to get a better performance out of a guy that has that much talent? That still leaves questions in my mind about, you know, their approach with him coming off the injury, coming back into the season, how they, you know, brought him back. What were the adjustments? Like, I would love to know. I would love a tell-all about his entire rehab, his entire, you know, the process, the things that they were looking for on a daily basis with him in the bullpen sessions. Like, what was it? Because they never found anything that made him a better pitcher ever, the whole year.
It's actually perfect. So last year and this year, he made 19 appearances each year. Last year, when he was on the field, like I said, 3.18 ERA. This year, 6.65. It doubled, more than doubled. Yikes!
And healthy. Everybody says healthy, right? Healthy. He was healthy when he was out there.
Well, I mean,
when he was out there, he was healthy until the end when he wasn't. So if you have a healthy player who has all that talent, has the things, and, you know, mechanically is obviously off because he's coming off of an injury, what's the problem? Like, what is the problem with that guy?
It would be a shame if I took Carlos Rodon from you, so I will let you do him.
He's an F. He's a big fat F. His mustache is an F. He's an F. He came in with expectations. He threw too hard because he was Tommy Tough Guy. Immediately gave me bad feelings. Immediately gave me bad feelings. Went on the IL, came back, pitched, blew kisses, and basically was making fun of fans, essentially, just like being a, you know, one of these rich guys who just downplays people who are spending their hard-earned money going to watch you pitch and excited for you, and he just shits in your face. And then he comes out on a daily basis when he gets the ball and just puts up a bad outing. He had 3 good outings mixed in there, 2 to 3, 4, something like that. Not 4 is probably too many. And he can't throw the ball over the plate. A lot of missed opportunities with the strike zone. A lot of missed opportunities with him being able to show that he is the guy that we think he is. And then at the end of the year, you see a player that, you know, you're okay, he's turned a corner. Maybe this is what we see, and then puts up another bad outing to end the season. Or, you know, I don't know if he's going to throw again, but he's a shithead, and
it's good.
Yeah, and we're going to see him for a long time because he's paid a lot of money. He's got a long contract, and he needs to be a big contributor. And they're relying on him, and there's no choice but to rely on him at this point because he is secured in the rotation and taking a massive bag from the Yankees. So
he doesn't get an F. He gets an S for shithead. Nestor Cortes, you want to give him an incomplete, fine, but
12 games started. I mean, you have to.
He was in those 12 games significantly disappointing, right? Like, we going into this season, you're like,
I don't think he was healthy.
Okay, fine.
And again, like, is that all these non-healthy players that are out there playing? I am looking at the player, yes, but I cannot dismiss the medical staff and the approach that they have for this team.
Well, when he pitched, he
flawed.
had a 4.97 ERA, and last year he was an all-star pitcher and arguably a better pitcher, more effective pitcher than Garrett Cole was last year, right? So he was the 1A to the Yankees last year. We weren't going to rely on him to be the 1A this year. You were relying on him to be the number 3, and then when Luis Severino came back, to be the number 4. And we thought we were sitting pretty with Nestor Cortes as our number 4 pitcher, and he had a 4.97 ERA when he pitched. So was he healthy? Was he not healthy? I don't know. Like you said, don't trust the Yankees medical staff because they have the worst track record out of anyone. But when he was out there, he was an F.
Yeah, fine. I still give him an incomplete, but he didn't perform. So yeah, and against expectations, it was bad.
All right, let's lump some of these other guys together. Johnny Brito got a bunch of outings. He's another guy. It's like, and we were talking about, like, we're gonna do some grades for the Yankees coaching staff, but like, you start looking at Matt Blake. What have you done for any young pitcher?
Yeah, nobody's improved. Nobody's come in here unless your name is Michael King, who has done different things. He's the only guy you could point to really that has. And you asked somewhere, can we give Blake any credit for Cole? No, you can't.
No,
you cannot.
No. Garrett Cole is a self-made,
his own guy,
man. Like he's coaching himself. Correct. Okay. But like, yeah, so fine. Blake has done really good things with King, and we highlighted King last
if he's responsible for any of that. That's the other
okay.
thing.
But like, you can't.
Fine.
We can't shit on him and then not give him credit for something like King. King looks like a great starter, which we highlighted last episode. I'm very.
Let's relax
excited
with
for
the word
King.
"great," huh?
He's been a great starter.
He's been a very good starter. Okay. All right,
listen,
Michael K.
If you can call IKF. If you can give IKF,
I didn't give you I didn't say the word great. I didn't say the word.
Do you think Michael King can be better than IKF can in his role? Yes.
IKF will pitch too. Okay?
He has pitched.
You want to talk about a Swiss Army knife? You want to talk about a Swiss Army knife?
Well, here's the worst part. IKF has been better than Luis Severino at pitching. better than Johnny Brito at pitching.
Carlos
Rodon at pitching.
He's got more of an arsenal than Carlos Rodon does.
So Johnny Brito,
he's got 3 pitches.
Like Johnny Brito, he a D, I guess, a 4.43.
He's a C.
ERA.
He's exactly what I expected him to
whatever.
be. He's a C. He's not a D.
C.
You got to pick.
C-.
You got to go against their expectation. Did you expect Johnny Brito?
No,
because
he shouldn't be pitching this much. He shouldn't be pitching this much. He should be a spot starter. Oh, you've got a doubleheader. Who's going to pitch game 2? Johnny Brito's going to pitch game 2 and give up 5 runs in 4 1/3 innings.
Yeah. And this is the problem with grading this team. You get guys who are in places that there should not be. And you expect them to be actually, putting up numbers that the player that they're replacing are putting up or close to it. And that's just not realistic for anybody's expectations. So a lot of these guys, I give a little bit of a tip of the cap because they came in and did what they were asked to do. And 8 innings, essentially. He's not supposed to be playing a pivotal role at all, Johnny Brito. No.
Okay, fine. Johnny Brito, C. I think Michael King deserves an A. Surprise.
It's shocking.
Clay Holmes.
Imagine if we had like 3 players from Rhode Island. It'd be a little too much. You'd be a little too positive.
Can you name 3 in the history of Major League Baseball players from Rhode Island?
Michael King, Rocco Baldelli.
Yep.
And
do it.
Dave Righetti.
Was he from Rhode Island?
Oh, tell me I'm wrong.
I don't know.
I just went old. I don't know.
Paul Konerko.
Okay.
Oh,
there's someone else that I'd
Carlos Pena. Pride of Providence.
Okay. Cool.
I
have no idea where Dave Righetti's from, by the way. I just said that.
I don't think he's from.
I knew you guys had no idea where he was from.
All right. Clay Holmes, what do you got? So
he's a B, bullpen, man. He's a B.
The bullpen is like, does the whole bullpen, do we just give everyone from San Jose, California?
That makes sense. He went home because he's coaching, or he was coaching with the Giants for a while.
Do we want to just, I don't think Tommy Kahnle. So Tommy Kahnle's numbers look good. Every time Tommy Kahnle came into pitch, I'm like,
he gave up runs that were not his runs.
Or he's going to walk everybody. Like,
Tommy Kahnle was like a D for me this year.
His numbers
I'm
look
purely
good,
going
though.
off of eye test. I don't care what his numbers say.
All of these bullpen numbers. So Clay Holmes, 144 ERA plus. Wandy Peralta, 153 ERA plus. Kahnle, 163 ERA plus. Ian Hamilton, the Shambino, 163 ERA plus. All of those guys have really good numbers. I never felt good about any of it, but that's unfair because they were coming into games and I was like, the Yankees are going to lose this game because whatever. So B, I guess all of them B.
Wandy Peralta is the guy that's the consummate pro out there who I.
What's he on the IL for right now?
Rest.
Part of me just thinks they completely ran him into the ground.
It's possible. I want him back. I do trust Wandy Peralta, and it may not be always the prettiest thing in the world, but he does the job.
Tricep strain. Okay.
I thought Ian Hamilton also was a guy that, he was a nice surprise. I know he had a stint in the middle there where he was on the shelf for a while, but I thought he was a nice surprise there. Again, it happens every year with bullpen guys. There's one or two guys that emerge that you don't expect from.
Young guy.
But here's the thing: like, do I expect them to be able to go and find another Ian Hamilton? Yeah,
yes,
I do.
Because if there's one thing Brian Cashman is good at,
leagues.
If there's one thing Brian Cashman is good at, he's finding guys for the bullpen. Another young guy, Albert Abreu, like this guy who's supposed to have talent.
He can't throw strikes. It's the same deal, man. That's why he was released from like 5 teams. He can't throw the ball over the strike zone.
Let's get into the coaching staff. You look at Blake then, and I'm sorry, you have to give Blake like a D. Overall, the Yankees pitching staff ranked 21st in baseball for WAR, 8th in ERA, 16th in FIP. But all of those young guys we talked about have not been improving. No young guy improves in the organization under this Yankees coaching staff. But if we're just focused on the pitching staff, Blake has not done anything for these young pitchers. I look at Brito, I look at Schmidt, I look at Albert Abreu, and anyone else they're going to be calling
Schmidt's the biggest one, honestly. Schmidt's the guy that has that first round pick coming out. They really like the player. He had Tommy John surgery, so he couldn't pitch for a full year. They were betting on this kid coming back, but they loved what he saw and drafted him in the first round, even though he had was about to undergo Tommy John surgery. It was a season lost knowing that, and they still drafted him in the first round. So when you're looking at that, I'm looking at what did they see scout wise? He did come back. No one's ever talked about him not coming back from Tommy John and being the full healthy guy that he should be. So yeah, I'm looking at what adjustments are being made. How is he being helped given all of this first round talent that they believed in so very much to have him sit for a year and not take a guy in that same spot that could probably contribute at a decent level as well. So yes, what are we doing with the young players? He's exactly the guy that you spend time with the first round pick, please. Spend some more time with the first round pick and actually get something out of him. Albert Abreu, he can't throw the ball over the plate consistently. So he comes out and he blows people away and you're like, wow, good stuff. Like he blows you away with his stuff. But then the next time, he'll walk 3 guys in a row and you can't have that in a bullpen. You just can't. So the bullpen, it was the best bullpen in baseball in the first half of the season, statistically.
That's right. Yeah.
So there's also a fall from grace here with the amount of these guys. And when I see, you want to talk about Clay Holmes quickly, expectations are a big deal. He did not meet expectations. Time and time again, he would come in a position where he's supposed to lock down a game and he doesn't. Again, not throwing the ball over the strike zone. Inconsistencies around the plate.
Well, with Clay Holmes, the first half of last year, where he was unhittable, he was Mariano Rivera reincarnated. That clearly is not the real Clay. That's not the real anyone. What we saw is a guy who loses the strike zone at times, and that's his Achilles heel.
Yeah, and for a bullpen arm, that's bad. A guy that's supposed to be a lockdown, because he came in as the closer. His expectation
and
his
lost his job. Even though they never said it, he lost his job.
There's no one took it. He just lost it because there was inconsistencies and they couldn't depend on him. But nobody took it from him. He just fell out of grace with being that final guy. And you see Wandy Peralta, just like the workman Wandy Peralta coming in, just closing games out. So yeah, disappointing for him too. I give him a C, but against expectations, if we're going on a curve, it's a D because I
thought we already gave him a B.
Well, I'm changing it.
Okay. Okay. Let's do Dylan Lawson and Sean Casey. So Lawson fired on July 9th. The Yankees at that time ranked 28th in batting average, 29th in hits, 26th in on-base percentage, and 27th in runs. Sean Casey comes in, and you're going to like this nugget. So this is a tweet from Brian Hoke.
Yeah.
Since Sean Casey was hired, the Yankees lead Major League Baseball with 9.24 plate appearances per walk and 4.04 pitches per plate appearance. Prior to the All-Star break, they were 20th and 20th in baseball in those categories.
Cool. So that's a really cool stat.
So cherry picking a stat. How many runs did they score? Oh, they still can't score runs? Cool.
Well, the narrative there is that, they were They were a more patient. They worked the count. They're getting on base more because they're seeing more pitches. It didn't nothing. First of all, Aaron Judge came back. Okay, that you're going to see a lot more.
LeMahieu started playing better.
LeMahieu started playing better. Rizzo stopped playing, and he was
That's right.
he was just like a vortex of a black hole. In the month of June.
But Stanton was still there.
Stanton was there physically. So yeah, those numbers mean absolutely nothing to me.
Jack shit.
And they're like the differences between those are so minuscule as well. It's just,
but that's just such a like a analytics nerd baseball fan cherry picking numbers to be like, this is why the Yankees are on the right path. Dude, how many runs did they score? They still could not score runs on a nightly basis. Routinely, it would be the 4th and 5th inning and the Yankees would have no hits in the game. Remember that stat? The Yankees were no hit in something like 48% of their innings this year. You went half of your innings without getting a hit. I don't give a crap how many pitches you're seeing per plate appearance. How is that helping you get hits and score runs? It's not. F.
Look, the fall of analytics is like one of my happiest times. I'm loving it because I've been so consistent with it. I've hated it from the approach in the beginning. I think analytics used for player development are very valuable, but when you start doing things that for tweaking certain things, but they use it to a fault in player development sometimes too. Launch angle being one of them.
Hoke says a nugget from the Yankees game notes. So the Yankees are
the game
finding
notes are
these
thorough
numbers.
As shit, though. The game notes are very thorough. Okay,
but they're finding numbers that make themselves look good. Just
so
like
Hoke's
they announced,
he said it's a
just
nugget.
like
it's a nugget.
Just like they announced 41,000 people.
Yeah, you got
at Monday afternoon's game, in which there were 611 people, maybe, at the stadium on Monday afternoon.
You got to spend certain things.
We've got, since Sean Casey was hired, the Yankees are 27th in runs. Good job.
How many championships do the Yankees have?
But it's like
27.
There's so many numbers you can look at in offense. The goal of an offense is to score runs, and the Yankees have not scored runs this
30th
year.
in batting average, but the nerds don't care about batting average. They only care about home runs.
Do they care about runs scored?
They should.
I bet
as long as they'll find a number that
they actually don't.
It.
Because remember that game they used to play, pitchers versus hitters, which is
right.
just baseball. No, not about getting on. No. How hard did you hit it? Did you hit it hard? Cool.
But the problem is that everything about that is assuming that production happens after the ball is hit hard, and it doesn't take into consideration when trying to hit a ball as hard as you possibly can, how many times you fucking miss it and don't hit it at all.
All right, Aaron Boone.
I'm sorry for swearing so much, everybody listening. I apologize, and if you have kids in the room, I apologize.
The Yankees they're now 121 and 119. Oh, you get caught swearing in front of Kemp?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I do. And you know what? It's not going to stop. He's heard it. He just needs to be taught. This is the thing. All right. It's the same thing with like the different approaches here. They just got to know not to use that language. Okay. It's not, you can't shield them from the world. They just need to know right from wrong. You can't say that word. I can. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay?
I'm getting yelled at too.
Well, you know.
And now Harrison's getting to the age where he repeats things. So
the repeating part, when they don't know, that's the problem area. Because then you get it. Then you get it in classrooms and such.
Yeah. Where did you learn that word?
But it's also kind of funny.
Great.
It's a little funny then.
It's cute once or twice. And then when he said shit for the 9th time today, it's not as cute. Aaron Boone, Yankees since July 1st of last year, 2 games over 500, and they're going to miss the postseason for the first time since 2016, which all of you already know. Aaron Boone deserves an F-, but he's still going to be the manager in 2024 because I'm sure he's not considered to be the problem as the Yankees are evaluating things this offseason. So let's get to Brian Cashman.
First of all, hold on. Don't gloss over that. Give me my time for a second.
I
know we're running over here, but the team looks unprepared half the time. The team doesn't look like they know fundamentals of baseball. Clearly,
because they don't know fundamentals of baseball.
Clearly, base running has been an issue with like situational stuff. They can't bunt. They can't hit late in games. They don't do the little things correct, and the little things are, to me, all on the manager and the coaching staff. The little things that should be continued to be drilled into their brains throughout the entire season. Fundamentals are never should ever go away, and nor they should ever be left off of the docket to talk about. Always. I don't care what level of baseball you are, professionals or T-ball. Fundamentals are core to baseball. They don't do any of that stuff, and it drives me nuts. So yes, the little things that I believe Aaron Boone should be focusing on, rather than blowing a gasket when another pitch is outside the zone that the umpire calls a strike. Great. I'm glad you have your players' backs when they're doing all the things they should be doing better. They should be doing better. So yes, he's an F. He's an F. Get him out of my face, please. I need a better communicator that knows baseball and can communicate about baseball things and not, whatever the hell he talks to them about. And of course the players are going to get his back. Of course the players are going to get his back. They're not going to say things against their manager in the middle of a season while the guy's still there. Why would they? That's the stupidest thing in the world. You will never hear that. So unless you know damn well a guy is on the way out, they're not going to speak their mind if they think otherwise.
But I do think that players probably like playing for Boone.
Fine. He's a nice guy. He's a fun dude. He's
I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm not saying that in defense of Boone. So like, I do believe when he goes out there and blows another gasket because the umpire made a bad call, they like that. It doesn't materialize. It doesn't translate into anything. It has not translated into wins. Like you said, has not translated into them being more fundamentally sound as a baseball team. Nothing. No, it's just fun. It's just, oh, yay, he's out there again. He's yelling because they called another ball at Aaron Judge's shins a strike. Wee. Oh, how many runs do we have? 1. It's the 8th inning. We're losing 6-1. Cool.
Yeah.
On to the next night.
The batting stance guy as our manager. That's like, he goes out there and just does little shows.
All right, Brian Cashman, just in recent history, completely failed the 2022 trade deadline, did not acquire a single outfielder in the offseason, and left field as a complete void, and went into the season with an injury-prone guy in center field and a guy who can't run as the designated hitter / outfielder. The only addition to the roster this year was a complete bust, Carlos Rodon. He was completely inactive at the 2023 trade deadline. Quotes from other GMs in the industry said the Yankees were paralyzed by indecision, which to me is the biggest offense. And they have question marks at these following positions going into next year. And this is being generous. Catcher, first base, left field, center field, DH, starting pitchers 4 through 5.
Yeah,
that's the roster he's left you with.
And they have limited opportunities to improve those unless they're spending money, which they've proved that they will not do. So, and the young talent's not ready to play. It's just not ready to play and take in those positions and help this team. So yes, we're in for a tumultuous offseason. I don't know I do expect Brian Cashman to be back. I still holding out hope that Boone will not be back and we can get some fresh voice at least, for change's sake. That's it. Like if they can't see that, then they're completely blind. But yeah, he gets an F.
He obviously gets an F. Okay. That's going to wrap up the grades. This was fun.
Hal Steinbrenner also gets an F for sitting back and
for
allowing all of
the
this
fans
bullshit
need
to happen,
be accountable
and mentioning that. Yeah, exactly. Pointing blame or pointing, some of this at the fans that they still show up, bro. What?
Well, they didn't show up yesterday, but 41,000 of them were invisible there.
So yes, Hal Steinbrenner also F. I bet his bottom line was beautiful. But baseball, it's an F, and you got to do better. You got to do much better. We have higher expectations. That's just the bottom line, and he needs to have higher expectations.
So there is a few baseball games on the schedule left. If something interesting happens, we're going to talk about them. But we're pretty much entering off-season mode at this point. I'm sure we're going to do the GM episode We usually do that in like November. We'll probably do that earlier this year just because of the Yankees situation, but don't want to do that too early because you want to know, who's going to be free agents, who's not. I think there's some options in deals that might be factors.
We'll obviously know about. There's going to be the infamous Brian Cashman press conference because he's going to be back. I would hope that Hal Steinbrenner will be talking a significant amount in that, but I don't know. And I hope that Aaron Boone is not part of that because.
So here's what I'm expecting. The season ends. Was it end next this coming Sunday, right? The season, or does it end on a weird day? I was looking at the schedule, and doesn't it end on like a?
It ends.
Oh no, it ends on a Sunday. So I don't think we're going to hear anything from like Cashman and Hal that whole week. My guess is
you can't be silent that whole week.
Last year
you
they
can't
were
be silent that whole week
after their exit
on
last
Monday
year
through Friday.
Mm-hmm. Last year they were silent the whole first week after they lost.
But that's different circumstances. This team has been projected to lose and not make the playoffs now for a month.
I think we're going to get a press conference around like October 10th or 11th.
Look, let me start there. If that happens and they don't come out and address things immediately by Tuesday the 3rd, then
that would mean they've already made decisions.
Yes, because this is projected. We know what's happening.
If you've already made a decision that Aaron Boone is not going to be your manager, and now they are officially eliminated, why is he still in the dugout?
Because they're waiting for the season to be over. That's just
why.
I don't know. That's just it. That's just a line in the sand.
Listen, Hal, if you're listening, or if someone who knows Hal can get to him, if you're listening, if you've decided Aaron Boone is not going to be your manager, and you want to end the season with an ounce of positive PR,
you can't
from fans.
It's too late for that.
Fire him,
Andrew. It's too late for that.
It's too late.
Fire him at this point.
But it would be fun. It would be fun.
They're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. That's not how they conduct business. They're not going to.
I know it's not.
But I don't even think they should at this point. I don't think they should. Like, yeah, I want Aaron Boone gone, but I don't. There's nothing to. You can't save face. It's not
saving face. It's making a point. Like, we know how
do it
bad
immediately
this
after
was.
the season. Immediately after the season is the same point, and it's a better look. I don't agree with that. I think you should do it. But waiting a week for all of us to speculate for an entire week.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Out of touch.
They're going to
know that they're out of touch.
They're going to go silent. They're going to have internal discussions and meetings and all that crap. And then 9 days after the season, we're going to get a press conference, and all three of them will be there because all three of them are going to be back, and they're going to spew the same rhetoric we've been hearing for the last 18 months.
I'm bothered right now. I'm bothered
because that's the likely outcome.
I do expect them to talk sooner than that, but
an unlikely outcome would be 24 hours after the season ends, Boone is fired, and then Hal is sitting there putting Cashman on blast, basically like he's not getting fired, but also fix this shit or else.
That's exactly what he has to do.
Yeah.
It's exactly what he has to do. You want to win back some fans' confidence? Hal Steinbrenner needs to flex his last name a little bit after the season and do exactly that immediately.
That would be beautiful. If he sits there the day after the season ends and says, we're going to find a new manager this offseason and a new coaching staff because we understand things have gone sideways and our general manager needs to address all of the holes on the roster. This is unacceptable. I would stand up and applaud Hal, but that's not him. He's the opposite of his dad to a fault. He does not want to be his dad, who would do that exact same thing. Boone would have been fired.
No. His dad would have already taken.
Yes,
we know.
But he wants to be the opposite in the sense of he's not going to fire a manager because his dad would have, even if he knows he should have.
There's an extent where it's just, again, okay. So the first thing you need to do is open the common sense department. I'm raising my hand to run that department. I would love to. I would absolutely love to, because this team needs a dose of reality from the outside. From the outside, they need to hear it. They need to hear it, and they need to institute something that actually gives them, some common sense and a little bit of voice from the people. They need to hear it. For God's sakes, they need to hear it.
Okay, we will see. Got a couple of weeks before that's going to happen. We'll talk to you guys. I don't know when we're doing another episode. Next week, probably.